So then guys, with the release of the brand new iPhone 16 models, a lot of you are wondering if you own say an iPhone 13 and iPhone 14, is it worth upgrading to one of the iPhone 16s? Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to compare the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14 to the likes of the normal iPhone 16. The iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14 were very similar models. And to be honest, as you'll see in the comparison I'm going to do today, this is why I'm comparing them both together to the iPhone 16. And with that, let's get started then with this comparison. So just like the other comparisons I've done recently, the iPhone 16 is on the left here and the iPhone 13, 14 is represented on the right here. And let's get started first of all with the display type. Now, both of these iPhones have really the same type of display inside of them. This is an OLED XDR display, and this actually came about with the iPhone 13, and they've kept this display now going through all of their models. So really there is no changes here with the actual screens. And the same here for the actual screen size. Both of them, or all three of the models, actually have the same screen size. So the 6.1 inches all across the board here, no differences whatsoever. But then moving over to the screen resolution, things do change a little bit here. Funny enough, the actual iPhone 16 actually has a resolution of 2556 by 1179, but the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14 has a resolution of 2532 by 1117. And you'll see in a second that's really not going to make much difference, but I just thought I'd make you aware of it. But the screen ratio is exactly the same. 19 by 5 by 9 there, so no differences. And what I mean by pixels per inch, as you can see, the iPhone 16 has 460 pixels per inch, or PPI, where we have 458 pixels per inch on an iPhone 14 and an iPhone 13. Really not much difference whatsoever in clarity what you're going to see there. And the same for the display refresh rate, exactly the same on all three models. What we've got is 60 Hz refresh rate across the board here, no differences. But moving over to screen brightness, there is a difference here. The iPhone 16 actually has a 2000 nits brightness inside of it, and this can actually go all the way down to 1 nit, whereas the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 13, they've only got a 1200 nits display inside of it, so it's not as bright. So just be aware of that. You're going to get definitely a brighter display with the iPhone 16. But then moving over to the processor and CPU, things are a bit different here. So with the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus, we have the new A18, and this is made out of a 6-core CPU. We've also got inside of here a 5-core GPU and also a 16-core neural engine. But then for the older iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14, this is a bit confusing. We actually got the same chip put inside them, or almost the same chip. In fact, we had the A15 with a 6-core CPU and a 4-core GPU inside of this in the iPhone 13, and then the iPhone 14 a year later got the same A15 6-core CPU, but just got one extra GPU core and a 5-core GPU, but the same 16-core neural engine and things like this. So really there wasn't much of a speed difference between both of these phones really. Maybe a little bit in graphics, but hardly anything between both of them. So just be aware of that. But obviously the A18 is really powerful compared to this old A15 that we used to have. But then the same for RAM amount. Is actually there were some differences here. The iPhone 16 is equipped now with 8 GB of RAM, which is really great. This really helps with Apple Intelligence, whereas the iPhone 13 only had 4 GB of RAM inside of it. And then a year later, the iPhone 14 only had 6 GB of RAM inside of it. So again, you can see that the iPhone 16 is definitely further ahead here. But then moving over to storage, well really there's been no differences here whatsoever. All three of these models came with 128 GB as the base model, and they go up to 512 GB too. So no differences there whatsoever. And then obviously expansional storage, there isn't any expansional storage because it's an iPhone, but even if you plugged in a USB to lightning cable, you're only going to get speeds of 480 megabytes. And even if you had USB-C to USB-C on the iPhone 16, it's the same speed. It's USB 2.0 there, so that's really disappointing to see from Apple. For operating system wise, both of these run iOS 18. But I think one of the main differences with the iPhone 16, you're going to get about another 7 years of updates easily with this phone, whereas the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14 probably around about another 4 to 5 years of updates instead with that one. But obviously most of the features are exactly the same apart from Apple Intelligence, what we'll talk about a little bit later on. But then moving over to battery life, there are some differences here. So the iPhone 16 actually gives us a 22-hour battery life, whereas the iPhone 13 and the 14 give us a 19 for the 13 and a 20 for the 14 hours battery life. And what I mean by this is for video playback, local video playback, what's actually stored on the storage inside of the iPhone. And if you played videos non-stop at the same brightness, same sound, and the exact same ones on all three of the iPhones, you'd get 22 hours out of the iPhone 16, 19 hours out of the 13, and then obviously 20 hours out of the iPhone 14. That's what that means here. And even you can see here for the actual battery life, the actual sizes, we have the differences here. The iPhone 16 has a 3,561 milliamp battery, whereas the iPhone 13 has a 3,227 and the 14 has a 3,279 milliamp battery size. Moving over then to wired and wireless charging, and there's some differences here too. So the new iPhone 16 can actually charge at 45 watts, what's absolutely incredible here at USB, but obviously you have to have a 45 watt charger. And then for MagSafe too, you can actually charge this at 25 watts charging as long as you put in a 30 watt charger or above. So 30 watt, 35 or 40 watt charger or above. And this is absolutely amazing what you can do with this. But then for the iPhone 13 and the 14, well, it still uses Lightning, 27 watts there, it can only go up to, and then obviously for wireless capability for MagSafe, only up to 15 watts with that, as long as you use one of Apple's actual MagSafe chargers. But then moving over to the weight, there really isn't many differences here. The iPhone 16 is now weighing 170 grams, whereas the iPhone 13 weighed 174 grams, and then obviously the iPhone 14 172 grams. There's really nothing in it here whatsoever. We're talking 2 or 4 grams. That is nothing at all. Even a screen protector for your iPhone, I'll give you a thing, weighs about 12 to 17 grams. So there we go. That just shows you the difference there. Then onto water resistance. All three of these phones are IP68, so this means they can be dunked into water up to 6 meters of clear water, up to 30 minutes there before any big damage happens, so that's really good to know. For ports wise, though, the iPhone 16 does have the USB-C, whereas the iPhone 13 and 14 has a Lightning port still, and obviously both of these are limited, or all three of these are limited to around about 480 megabits per second. Well, obviously it's USB 2.0 ports, even though we have USB-C on the iPhone 16, so just be aware of that. For stereo speakers, we have them all on the three of these phones. All of them have that, so it's really good to see there, 2 of them. And then for artificial intelligence or Apple Intelligence, the iPhone 16 is the only one that gets this. Obviously the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14 will not, and probably will not in the future whatsoever. So if you really want the Apple Intelligence and the artificial intelligence capabilities even going into the future, the iPhone 16 is the model for you. For Bluetooth technology, well, the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 14 have Bluetooth 5.3, whereas we have Bluetooth 5.0 in the iPhone 13. For Wi-Fi speeds, not many differences here. The only thing is we got the iPhone 16 has 7 or Wi-Fi 7, whereas the 13 and 14 have Wi-Fi 6, not even Wi-Fi 6E. Then onto rear cameras, well, there are some differences here. So the iPhone 16 has a 48 megapixel wide, this is the normal camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and it can also record up to 4K video. Whereas the 13 and 14, they both still have a 12 megapixel wide and ultra wide, and they can record up to 4K video too. But obviously you can imagine the iPhone 16 definitely has better camera capabilities in there. And then the same for the actual selfie camera as well. All three of these phones have a 12 megapixel selfie camera pointing at the front and can record up to 4K. So that's really good to know that. Then finally for the price. The great news I can say is that along from the 13 to the 14 and even the 15, what we've not spoke about today, and the 16, the base model for the standard model comes in at $799 for the 128 gigabytes of storage that comes with it too. This has not changed whatsoever, so that's really good to see that this has stayed the same since they've all become new. And with that, what iPhone model will you be buying? So as you can see there, guys, what I would say is with the 13 and 14, it's more to do with, say, the chip inside, where you're going to really see the differences there. You know, the camera capabilities, there's a few extra bits and pieces, but screen size, screen technology, really there isn't that much difference there. It's all to do with speed, it's all to do with updates, and also all to do with Apple Intelligence and things like that too. And obviously the cameras are going to be a bit more better. But that's my own opinion there. What are yours? And let me know also, guys, in the comments below if you're thinking of getting an upgrade to an iPhone 16. Put it down in the comments right now. And with that as well, guys, it's time to wrap up this video. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. And also, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews, and comparisons, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and also hit that notification bell. Until next time, guys, I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.